afternoon, and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to another edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast. As we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Here's the key. Take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. And joining me to kick off the week and talk all things NBA basketball, which, by the way, I watched for about 17 hours this past weekend. Look at this guy, Coach Billy Mims. Coach, how you doing today?
Hey, the NBA playoffs are on. We're in Florida. I'm talking to you. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that.
You're absolutely right. And let's start with the Magic, the most important story here in the state of Florida. They're up 2-1. I feel like that game Saturday was their biggest win in about 15 years. Magic fans were like, what about game 6 against Cleveland? That was to tie a series, and then they lost. Biggest win in 15 years, ... until tonight. Now tonight's the biggest game they've had in 15 years. Our good friend Jerry Durney, he texted me earlier today. He goes, Scott Foster's going to be one of the refs. I'm like, oh, no. Here we go. The great equalizer in NBA playoffs, Scott Foster. Dude, how big of a game is this tonight for the Orlando Magic?
Well, I know you and I were talking about the game the other day on Saturday, and we were looking at that going, it's 1-1. The Magic are at home. It's game 3, and they really, really need to win this game. And all of a sudden, I got this text message from somebody, and I sent it to you. I said, yeah, Mark, they really, really need to win this game. Because in NBA history, the winner of a series in the NBA playoff first round, if the series is tied 1-1 in NBA playoff history, the winner of game 3 goes on to win the series 74% of the time. 74% of the time. Now, my wife is English. Yeah. You do know that. So the English people don't think as positive as us Americans. So when I told my wife that, she goes, well, that means they still got 26% chance they won't win it.
Good point. It's a great point. I have known you since 2013 when I first moved here to Florida. So we've been talking Magic this whole time. I've never seen them up 2-1 in a series before. Just think about that crazy. I said that on News 13 the other night, and everyone paused just like you did. Like, wait, what? I'm not kidding. I have seen them in 13, 14 years, whatever it's been covering the Magic. This is my 5th playoff series. I saw them go up 1-0 on Toronto and then lose 4 in a row to Toronto in 2019. I mean, that was the champ. I'm not kidding when I say that. I've never seen them up 2-1 in a series. So this is uncharted territory since they've had Dwight Howard and your guy Stan Van Gundy. That's why it's so big. And dude, I want your thoughts. When Paolo hit that 3, where it bounced and went straight up in the air and went in, is that one of those things where you just look at the basketball gods and you're just like, you know what? Maybe the ball's going to bounce our way this time.
I've said this many, many times, right? Mm-hmm. To win championships, I believe it takes 3 things to win championships. 1, talent. Yeah. And the Orlando Magic definitely have talent. 2, you have to be healthy. Your best players have to be healthy. I mean, look at the Minnesota Timberwolves right now. They're up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets, and they might lose the series. Mm-hmm. And you say, well, how can that be, Billy? Because Anthony Edwards and Dante DiVincenzo are out for the rest of the series. Maybe DiVincenzo's out for the season. They haven't ruled Anthony out for the season yet, but they said he could be out for weeks, quote, weeks. Yeah. So you have to be healthy. You need your best players. Right now, Franz Wagner is back and playing well, right? In that 9-0 run in Saturday's game, late in the ball game to win the game. The first 5 of that 9-0 run, Franz Wagner. So you have to be talented. You have to be healthy. And number 3, Paolo Banchero made me a true believer. You have to be a little bit lucky too.
Yeah, we were texting back and forth when Detroit went on the 15-0 run pretty much to tie it with 3 minutes to go. we're texting back and forth the idea of like, oh, we've seen this. This is a broken record. We've seen this before. And I didn't realize this. You talk about a 9-0 run. I don't think Detroit scored down the stretch.
No.
You
Detroit took the lead. They were up 105-104. The final 9 points of the game came to the Orlando Magic. And I'll tell you this, I have to give their coaching staff some credit there. Because again, remember, this year, one of the fortes of the Orlando Magic is they've been a much better defensive basketball team. They're one of the NBA's best defensive teams. When you look at the statistics, all the things you look at to define who a good defensive team is, the Magic are one of the top teams in the NBA in all of those categories. So defense has been their forte. And down the stretch on Saturday, you saw defense take over the game. A 9-0 run to finish the game against the number 1 seed, a team that won 60 games this year. So when you look at that, Mark, that bodes really well for the Magic the rest of this series if they continue to rely on defense. And when does defense matter the most? Late in a close game. That's when it matters. Yeah, they made some shots. I'll tell you the other thing I wanted to bring up with you. As I was going back over the stats and looking at the ball game, they won by 8 points. But I'll tell you something that I noticed and when I looked at the overall stats in the game. Orlando shot. Let me just pull it up here.
He's still getting it up. What'd they shoot?
33 free throws in the game. The Detroit Pistons shot 24 free throws in the game. Magic shot 9 more free throws and won by 8 points. Free throws win games. Down the stretch, they made enough free throws, big free throws, with their defensive effort to win the game. But I thought they got more free throws in the ballgame. And that's not a referee thing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blaming Tony Brothers, okay? When Tony Brothers is on the crew, it's a big game.
Yeah.
That's a joke between my son and I. Josh and I always say, Tony Brothers is a big game. I'm not blaming Tony Brothers or the crew or anything like that. It's not a referee statement. I think it was more a statement of how aggressive the Magic were on the offensive end of the floor. They were attacking. And you know what got them more free throws, Mark? Not just that aggressive nature of play, but they got in, the Pistons got in foul trouble early, it seemed, all the time. Early in a quarter, early in a half, early late in the game. The Pistons were in foul trouble. And that means the earlier you get in the bonus, the more you go to the free throw line. The Magic were aggressive early. They got in the bonus early, and they were rewarded for that by shooting more free throws.
And look, the Pistons, there were multiple fouls where it could have been flagrant 1 in this basketball game. I mean, what is that word that constantly used? Intent, the wind up, right? They were ready to fight. They knew they were in a slugfest, and the Magic completely beat them down the stretch with 2.5 to go in that fourth quarter. Dude, tonight, I can't stress this enough. Tonight's going to be even crazier because this goes back to the point I made to you last week. The Magic have got to win Game 3. They did. They've got to win. If they lose tonight, Detroit gets home court back with 3 to go.
You hit the nail right on the head there, right? Mm-hmm. If they lose tonight, they give up everything they worked so hard for. They went to Detroit and won Game 1. Yeah. They shocked the world in Game 1 by winning in Detroit in Game 1. Well, that was also Detroit's 11th straight home playoff loss. So probably didn't shock Detroit Pistons fans. They're used to losing playoff games at home. But in reality, they went there and they earned that. They got that Game 1 win. They lost a tough game in Game 2. Then they come back home and they do the next thing they have to do. They protect their home court themselves. Now, they do have, as you pointed out, right now at this point in time, the Magic have the home court advantage. There could be in a 7-game series. That means there's 4 games left in this series. And the Magic have the home court advantage. All they have to do is win at home, and they win the series. Because at this point, they're up 2-1. 2 more games in Orlando, would even mean there's 2 more games in Detroit.
Yeah.
But you won't get to 2 more in Detroit unless the Magic lose 1 at home. All they have to do now, Mark, is win at home. That's how big tonight's game is.
It's gigantic. And this goes to another stat, right? And this is just the eye test. They have played 12 quarters of basketball. Detroit has only played championship level of basketball in that third quarter of game 2. And look, they scored 40 points, right? That's it, right? If that doesn't happen, the Magic are up 3-0, right? That's why I have momentum if I'm Jamal Mosley. We have outplayed them for most of this series. We are up 2-1. We're at home in game 4. And here's the other thing. I want your thoughts on this. The 3-point shooting woke up for Orlando. And you have to ask yourself, can we rely on this moving forward? Because Detroit's going to be asking that. Do you really think Desmond Bane's going to hit 7 3-pointers in a game? Right? Do you really think? That's my key for tonight. Can they keep the 3-point shooting going? Because if they can, the Magic are going to win tonight. That's my
Desmond Bane was a record-setting night.
Yes.
7 threes. 7 for 9 behind the arc. He shot free throws better than Rudy Gobert shoots free throws. You know, his 3-point shooting, his threes were at a higher percentage than a lot of players in the NBA from the free throw line. 7 of 9, historic record-setting night. I don't know if you'll get another record-setting night from somebody, but I agree they've got to be good behind the arc. There was another stat in that game. You look, they won game 1, they won game 3. They lost game 2. You pointed out the biggest reason they lost game 2, the 40-point, third quarter deluge from the Detroit Pistons. There's another reason, a similarity, why they won game 1 and they won game 3. All 5 starters showed up in games 1 and 3. Yeah. All 5 starters scored significantly double digits in game 3. Paolo Banchero, 25 points. Franz Wagner, 17. A crucial 5 down the stretch. Wendell Carter Jr., 14 points and 17 rebounds.
Huge.
Desmond Bane, 25. Jalen Suggs, 15. Come on. You can't ask for more from your starting 5 than the Magic got in game 3.
Yeah, I'm happy you brought up Wendell Carter. Philip Rossman-Reich with Orlando Magic Daily brought this up to me last week where he's like, look, his X factor is Wendell Carter versus Jalen Duren. So you've seen this so far in this series. Carter is driving him crazy. And 17 rebounds. I have seen Carter's whole career. That was probably his best game in the NBA, what he did on Saturday. That was great. And I told this, I was talking to my brother. I know I'm just name dropping like crazy right now. So many people are calling me up. Okay. You think about, all right, you're Detroit. You won 60 games. You're the 1 seed. You should be rewarded with a cupcake. Here's the problem, though. The Magic's front court is 6'10", 6'10", and 6'11", and they're coming at you. And they're like, what is this? They thought they were going to take on, again, a pushover. And the Magic are like, no. Because you can see they're a fraud as an 8th seed. This team should have been a 4 seed at least in the Eastern Conference. And I feel bad for Detroit. I do, because they're like, what is happening here? Again, tonight is gigantic. I think the whole country is going to be watching this. I think it's been the most fascinating series so far in the first round of the playoffs. And this is the season for Detroit tonight. All the pressure is on them tonight. Would you buy or sell that on Detroit? It's all the pressure on them.
Oh, I'm buying on that. I believe, but here's a point to play. I'm buying exactly that. All the pressure is on Detroit, because if they do lose tonight, then the Magic have 3 more chances to win the series. 3 chances. If Detroit lose tonight, right, in game 4, it would be, if it goes to 7, it would be a 3-game series, and the Magic only have to win 1 of those final 3 if they win tonight. Detroit's back is against the wall. They can't afford to be a number 1 seed and go down 3-1 in the first round of the NBA playoffs. They just can't afford that, Mark. I also thought, look at this. When you talk about the big front line of the Orlando Magic, you got one of them right now who on some nights, he's up and down, switch the light off, switch the light on. But there are some nights that Paolo Banchero looks like a young Nikola Jokic because he had a double-double in game 3. He was 1 assist away from a triple-double. So he had 9 assists. He led the Magic in assists in game 3. Now, sometimes he's been known to also lead the Magic in turnovers. So he does think he's a point guard at times, but that sometimes leads to problems. Sometimes he makes great passes, creates great opportunities for his teammates, and leads the team in assists. Sometimes in trying to make those great plays, he forces too much and turns the ball over. Fortunately for the Magic, game 3, he was an assist king, not a turnover king.
Yeah, and I think someone we've not brought up, Cade Cunningham, by the way, is fantastic. I can't say, but you know what? He had 9 turnovers on Saturday. That hurt them as well. But again, he is the real deal. I am sold. I've seen him play enough. This is not a fluke. He is the real. I know they talk about like, oh, we got to hype Ja Morant or Zion Williamson. No, those guys are frauds. He is the real deal. And if you're the Magic, you better put him in bad situations again.
You make a great point. His 9 turnovers were crucial. And again, I have to give Coach Mosley and the coaching staff some credit there because, again, their mantra this whole season is we're going to be better defensively. We are going to be a defensive stalwart. And they played physical. The Magic played physical. There were body bumping, body checking, hand checking, a lot of pushing and shoving. It was a physical game on Saturday afternoon, a 1 o'clock start. I think that also helped the Magic. When you're on the road, day games are tougher to play on the road than they are at home. You're not in your own bed. You're in a hotel. You got there late the day before. You're kind of trying to figure out what you're doing. Now your pregame meal becomes breakfast. Everything's different with a road game and an early afternoon tip. But it's not so different because everything doesn't change for the home team, only the game time. So I think that was another factor that helped the Magic get off to a good start in that game. And they sort of kept playing bucket for bucket with Detroit throughout the game. As you said, they took a big lead. They opened up a big lead. Detroit fought back. And I've told you many times my theory on that. If you dig yourself a hole, it's one thing to come back from that hole. It's another thing to come back and win.
All right, then let's go over this. The 6-man. You talk about 1 o'clock starts. That's early on a Saturday. That crowd was bananas. Just angry. And I say this all the time. I think it's one of the most underrated crowds in the NBA. I am not kidding around. So tonight, 8 o'clock with the start, people are probably leaving work early. They're going to get some beverages in them. I think that home crowd is going to help you get 5 or 6 points tonight. I'm not kidding around. I told you before we came on, I'm going to try to leave here at 4, go home for 30 minutes just to rest my eyes, right? I'm acting like I'm getting ready to play. Then I'm going to try to get there because it's not going to start 8. It'll be 8:15. Something will happen. You know what I mean? That crowd is going to be electric. I don't even know how I'm getting out of the stadium because this is uncharted territory. How big of a game. You know what I mean? Like, you've been to Final Fours. You've been to big playoff games. You've coached in championship games. You know about home crowds. How much is a home crowd in this series? How much is this big for the Magic tonight?
Well, and I really believe, Mark, too, that the Kia Center is a really good home court environment. Some of these big arenas today are so vast, and some of the upper levels seating is miles away from the court. The Kia Center was well constructed. It was put in a tight area of downtown. But even the rafter seats, the actual seats, I'm talking where you're sitting on the top row of the upper level and you can stand up and bump your head on the roof. Those seats are physically not that wide, not that far away from the court. They're tight. So they're like looking right down on. Now, the converse of that is when you're sitting in those, you get a little woozy because when you stand up, you feel like you're going to fall on the court. They're very steep, right? But if you've ever been up there, and I have been up there before, they're very, very steep. I think the steeper the seating, the more concise the arena is. Everyone is closer to the court. They may be high up, but they're close enough to probably spit on the floor because they're right above it. And I really believe you can feel the energy from the entire Kia Center when you're playing there. No matter where you're sitting, you feel the energy. Even in those press seats, they're in the upper deck, but the lower sort of portion of it. But when you walk to those seats, it's kind of steep. Yeah. They're very steep. So I love the way it was constructed, and I think it was constructed to become a really good home court advantage. The fans are hungry, Mark. The Orlando fans are hungry. We don't have a lot of professional sport in Orlando, Florida. There's no Major League Baseball in Orlando. There's no NFL football team in Orlando. What do we have? We have the Magic. And right now, the Magic are giving the city of Orlando and their fans a little bit of magic. And you know what they say, right? About Orlando, the home of Mickey Mouse. It's this mouse world here, you know. What is the famous saying there, right? That it is the place where dreams really do come true.
If you wish upon us, I'm not going to do it.
Spare us, Mark. Spare us, Mark.
It says Disney on the jersey, okay? Don't forget. It does.
Hey, you got a little castle on the jersey, you know? And how many people have taken their kids to the Magic Kingdom,
yeah,
and stood there with their children, and their children were looking up, and they were wishing on that castle and the star at the top, and a little ferry that glides down in the fireworks show at the end of the night, and all the beautiful, lights on the castle. The children are hoping to meet a Disney princess, but the dads are standing there looking up. Please, Magic Kingdom, can you give the Magic one more chance?
Please, can we just see a playoff series win? Can we get to the second round? Okay, please. I don't ask for much. I don't want Moana, or I don't want, Cinderella to show up. Just give me a playoff win. So,
you know what I don't understand too?
What?
You watch all these other playoff games. You watch the Knicks games. You watch the Pistons game when they were home the other night, right? And you see all these former stars showing up.
Yeah.
I believe that this is a big game tonight. They better have Stan Van Gundy on the call. He better be courtside talking about his time in Orlando and how I think he still owns a home in Orlando. So yeah. I know that he still believes in the Magic, right? But where's Dwight Howard? Where's Shaquille O'Neal? Where's Jameer Nelson? Let's bring in some of these former Magic guys. The cameras, TV cameras, should be going around and going, oh, look at this. There's a former Magic star, and he's back for the great. I don't get it that these other franchises get that, but somehow, and trust me, there were a lot of great players in Magic history. Most of them went on to be traded and play for other teams, and some of their greatness occurred for other teams, but still, there should be that thing, once a Magic player, always an Orlando Magic player.
It's a great point, because I bring this up all the time. Who's the greatest Magic player of all time? I said that person doesn't exist yet. And they're like, what are you talking about? What about Shaq? What about Dwight Howard? What about Penny? What about T-Mac? The guy that brings a championship to Orlando is the greatest player of all time. That's how I look at it. Hasn't happened yet. It hasn't. So it might never happen either. I'm sorry to break that to you.
That's a good point. And then I wonder, do they feel like that out west about Karl Malone?
Karl Malone, that's a great point. Well, at least Karl got them to 2 straight titles. Oh, man.
Never won a championship. Karl Malone was the Shaquille O'Neal of the Utah Jazz.
But at least he was there for 20 years. He didn't leave after 4 because he got bored of going to Kissimmee to shop. All right? He had the guts to stay.
You know what I heard this a long time ago. And you drive around Orlando a lot, like I do, for various business reasons and so forth. And you get frustrated at times with the tolls in Orlando, right? I remember a long time ago when I was recruiting, when I was a college basketball coach, and driving from the Carolinas down to recruit the state of Florida. And I remember when they first put the toll system in all around the city of Orlando. There were no other tolls at the time in the state of Florida. They were all, you could go to Miami, no tolls. Jacksonville, no tolls. Tampa, no tolls. Tallahassee, no tolls. Tolls all around Orlando. So I stopped at the toll booth one time, obviously coming from the Carolinas to recruit.
Yeah.
I had no sticker. I had no toll sticker on my car. So I stopped at the booth, and this was back when they actually had people sitting in the booth. And I stopped at the booth and reached out to pay my toll. So I just jokingly said, hey, what's up with all these tolls around Orlando? And the lady in the booth looked at me and she goes, somebody's got to pay, Shaq.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Like,
true story.
That is awesome. And I just like anyone who's like, yeah, let's get rid of property taxes. Yeah. Well, guess what, dumbass? If that happens, then the booths to go to Orlando will be $30 one way. Okay. Do you not understand how this works? Okay. I'm sorry I had to bring that up. I'll finish with this. I like you bring up courtside. Let me tell you something. When you go to an NBA playoff game, the courtside outfits, they're up a level. Okay. Men and women. Men are wearing their designer clothes and women are really wearing their designer clothes. You're getting the good Gucci purse.
Excuse me.
You're getting the, oh yeah, this is my finest purse. Okay. Like they don't mess around. I'm bringing my good girlfriend to this, not the other, the good looking girlfriend to this.
I am so glad you brought this up because I wanted to make, you and I watch a lot of NBA basketball.
Oh, yeah.
So the other night, I'm watching the Minnesota Timberwolves, Denver Nuggets game. And do you remember what happened at the end of the game? What do you remember? The last game the two played. What happened?
Joker tried to start a fight at the end of the game.
So you remember there was a fight, and Joker and Julius Randle got tossed.
Yeah.
That most people will remember that. But because of being your friend and talking to you so many times, I tend to watch. Sometimes I look at the front row of these games. I'm like, well, who's sitting there? What are they wearing? I wonder who they are. Do they own part of the team? Are they celebrities? Who are those? Who's in the Jack Nicholson seats? So when the fight broke out, I'm going to send you a clip of it, right? I had to bring my wife, and I called her, Lynn, you got to come see this, right? And she's watching the fight, and she goes, well, nobody hit anybody. I mean, there's no punches thrown or anything. I said, that's not what I'm talking about. Look at the front row as the fight breaks out. There was this lady sitting on the front row in like a white outfit with like a long tan, like top coat or something. She's right there, sitting in the first seat by the bench. And when the melee breaks out, she gets up and runs away down because all these 7-foot monsters are right in front of her about to throw a punch. But then the stupidity of it, the funniest thing on the planet, I mean, somebody should put this, clip it in circle and just watch her movement, right? She goes, nothing's been broken up. There's a melee going on. They are backed up against her seat. All of a sudden, she realizes she doesn't have her purse. She goes slipping in through the crowd, Mark. Watch it. Pull it up online. She goes slipping between the seats and the players until she can come out with her purse in her arms. And I'm like, you are sitting on the front row. You obviously have a lot of money or connected to a lot of money. You're trying to get in between a fight between your seat and 25 multi-millionaire basketball players who are the size of Goliath, and you're worried about somebody stealing your purse and your money?
Yeah. The Joker's going to steal my purse. Get that purse.
I'm sorry, but that was to me the funniest moment of the playoffs so far.
I love it. Okay, I do. All right. Let's end with this. This is the clip I will play on social media after you've been laughing. I'm going to ask you a really tough question, and then we'll end this great conversation. Buy or sell, the winner of tonight wins this series. I will go first. I say yes. If Detroit wins tonight, they're probably going to win this series because they have the next 2 or 3 at home. They'll get their swagger back if they win tonight. if the Magic win tonight, they're winning this series, right? And they're going to do it in 6 games. This is the most important game of this series. Winner of tonight is going to win this series. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'd like to sell so I don't sound like an agreeable person. But you're smart, Mark. You're very smart. You've been covering professional basketball, professional sport a long time. I'm buying that as well. This is the biggest game. As we started this whole show saying, this is the biggest game the Magic have had. The funny thing about big games, once you win a big game, the next game becomes the biggest game ever.
Yes.
That's just the way it works in the postseason. Tonight, Saturday was the biggest game the Magic had ever played. That 1 o'clock tip at home, to win that game, and again, go with the NBA statistics that said team that wins game 3 wins the series 74% of the time. I'll bet you anything that percentage increases when you win this game. And if you go up 3-1 in the series, it's higher than 74%. I'm betting that. So I'm buying your statement. The winner of tonight, the series, the second round, the continuance of this season for the fans and the players and the coaches and the organizations depends on the outcome tonight.
Billy Mims, thank you so much for coming on. Love this conversation. Don't forget to have your Gucci purse ready, okay? This is very key. Have a great one. I'll talk to you later, all right?
If a fight breaks out tonight, watch the sideline.